Alrighty, welcome back. So we're on to the second part of chapter 13. So we're going to talk about war, expansion, and slavery. Alright. So Texas votes to join the Union. Mexico is going to break off diplomatic relations with the United States. And part of that is going to be because there is a dispute between the border of Texas. So Texans and the United States think it's along the Rio Grande. The people in Mexico heartily disagree and think it is not there. So that's going to cause some problems. Polk's going to send, he's going to start efforts to gain other northern provinces of Mexico, so that's going to include California, New Mexico. Those diplomatic relations are going to get even worse. He's going to send 2,000 soldiers to occupy these disputed lands. And this war is going to begin between Mexico and the United States. And part of it is trying to gain California and all that. And part of it is this disagreement in the borders on Texas. Polk accepts a negotiated settlement with Britain that divides the Oregon country at the 49th parallel. And so we will get Washington and Oregon out of that. Today's states, that's what will be Washington and Oregon. And Canada will be above that. The army was led by General Zachary Taylor at the end of 1846. The U.S. controls most of northeast Mexico. They secure California early in 1847, and fighting is going to continue with the U.S. attacking Mexico City, seizing the capital in September of 1847, and defeating Santa Anna yet again. So as you can see, Santa Anna is in charge of Mexico for quite a long time, all the way from before the Alamo to, we're at 1847 here, so it's quite a bit of time. All right. So Northern Whigs, they opposed the war on moral grounds. So they split the Democrats across sectional lines. Congressman David Wilmo, who is a Democrat from Pennsylvania, proposes that slavery be prohibited in any territory obtained through the war with Mexico. So that is quite a bit of land. If you look at that map right there where it says Mexican cession, plus a lot of that blue that's part of number 4 there. That is a lot of the land that we've gotten from Mexico. So not allowing slavery in any of those areas would be quite a bit. So that's going to get a lot of people up in arms. Whigs and the anti-slavery Democrats are going to support the Wilmot proviso and Wilmot himself. It is, however, rejected by the Senate. Expansionist fervor is going to continue, but there will be some hesitation by people who fear that we will have more war if we continue to try and expand. 1848. We have the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So the United States paid Mexico $15 million in return for more than 1/3 of its territory. The agreements were reached on granting land in Oregon. Let's see. Fear is going to increase slave power conspiracy growing in the U.S., and that's going to start to dominate national life. They're going to try and thwart that plan or stop that plan. So they're going to start a free soil movement. This is organized by the Free Soil Party. They claim that slavery threatened republicanism and Jeffersonian ideals. You have the next election that's going to be 1848. Polk does not run for re-election. He decides against that. So the Whigs are going to nominate General Taylor, Zachary Taylor, who has just gone to Mexico and fought in the Mexican-American War. He, however, does not support the expansion of slavery. And the funny thing is he's a Louisiana slave owner who doesn't support the expansion of slavery. So Taylor wins 47% of the popular vote and an electoral majority, and he becomes the next president. Okay. Let's see. You have the 49ers, so we are moving into the expansion part of this. We talked about war, we talked about slavery, so expansion. 1848, gold is discovered in California, and you get a gold rush. You will also have the Klondike gold rush up in Alaska, and you will have people trying to go to Alaska to get gold. There's a rush of men and ships and wagons to the west, which begins with more than 80,000 men by the end of 1849. They're going to live in cramped quarters. There's going to be a lot of gambling, a lot of alcohol and prostitution. They are terrible to anybody who's not white. That's going to include Indians, Mexicans, Chileans, the Chinese. Disease is going to kill a lot of people. When you live in close quarters, that is going to be a problem. And many men are disillusioned by their failure. So let's think about this and how we travel in 1848, largely by wagon and horse. And so if you hear about gold and you're on the East Coast and you travel all the way to California, the chances that you're going to get there and there's going to be a lot of gold for you to get rich off of are not super high. And so that is going to be a big problem as well. By the time you get these large amounts of people, the gold has been tapped out. The Indians, of course, are going to receive no protection from law enforcement. I mean, there's not a lot of law enforcement, but they're really, even what's available, they're not going to protect the Indians. They face diseases. Settlers are going to murder Indians to take their land. You have a creation of a slave-like trade among whites taking Indians as labor. There are treaties with Mexico, but the whites want to push the Californios off their land. So these were those Mexican landowners, rancheros that owned ranches and land and stuff like that. Many of them are going to sell their land to the whites simply to kind of leave the region and be done with it. Whites who settled in the northern part of California had more success with crops because the weather is better to, you have more variation. All right, so yeah, terrible things happen in California. All right, 1850 crisis. So California is going to be ratifying an anti-slavery constitution. So them for their own state, that's what they're going to ratify. This is going to open this debate for admission to the Union. The debate is going to continue about whether California should be admitted free or slave. Senator Stephen Douglas of Illinois, he is going to call for popular sovereignty. And the basic definition of popular sovereignty is the people rule. So basically this is going to give the power of choice to the people. Douglas is going to achieve the passage of 5 laws, and it is going to be called the Compromise of 1850. So these 5 things are, first, we're going to have a new Fugitive Slave Act. California is going to be admitted as a free state. Settled boundary disputes between New Mexico and Texas are in favor of New Mexico. So originally Texas thought they deserved part of what is now New Mexico as well. Imagine the size Texas would be then. They abolished the slave trade in the District of Columbia, and they established New Mexico and Utah with popular sovereignty on the slave issue. So again, giving people the choice of whether or not they are going to be a slave state or a free state. So that actually brings us to the end of this section. So if you are listening to this, yay for you. There is actually an extra credit assignment on Schoology that you can go to about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The instructions are all there along with the treaty and a map if you want to earn up to 20 points extra credit. So it is towards your minor grades. It has to be handwritten. And the date that it is due is on the assignment. So check that out for an opportunity to earn some extra credit points, which many of you who probably aren't listening probably really need. So there's that. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening. Talk to you later. Bye.